Hello everyone, welcome back to PrepBee, and today we are going to do CAT 2023 slot 2 passage and few BA questions. So let's get started. Over the past 4 centuries, liberalism has been so successful that it has driven all its opponents off the battlefield. Now it is disintegrating, destroyed by a mix of hybrid and internal contradictions, according to Patrick Deneen, a professor of politics at the University of Notre Dame. Equality of opportunity has produced a new meritocratic aristocracy that has all the aloofness of the old aristocracy with none of its sense of noblesse oblige. So here what the author is trying to say is that liberalism has as a political philosophy has gained so much political influence and power over the last 400 years that it has outcompeted other political ideas, leaving no strong alternatives. So it is saying that, however, according to a professor, he has mentioned the name, liberalism is now falling apart. He argues that this is happening because of the ignorance within liberalism and contradictions within its own beliefs. Right. So liberalism's focus on providing equal opportunities has unintentionally led to a new elite class or meritocratic aristocracy. Now, this group has become as detached as the old noble class, but unlike the old aristocracy, they lack a sense of responsibility or duty to help society. All right. This is your noblesse oblige. That means that they don't have the duty to help the society. All right. So now the author is trying to say that, according to Professor, liberalism is now falling apart. All right. Now, because there is an entire new class, which is a meritocratic aristocracy has been formed. Now they are detached from the old noble class, and at least, but unlike the old noble class, but unlike the old aristocracy, they lack a sense of responsibility or duty to help the society. Democracy has degenerated into a theater of the absurd, and technological advances are reducing ever more areas of work into meaningless drudgery. The gap between liberalism's claims about itself and the lived reality of the citizenry is now so wide that the lie can no longer be accepted. Mr. Deneen writes, what better proof of this can the vision of 1,000 private planes whisking their occupants to Davos to discuss the question of creating a shared future in the fragmented world? Now, it is just saying that Deneen, he believes that modern democracy has become so ineffective and ridiculous that it is failing to live up to its original ideas. And now many jobs are increasingly simplified and mechanized by technology, making work feel less meaningful or rewarding for the workers. Now it is saying that he is saying that liberalism, it promises freedom, opportunity, and progress. But at the same time, there is a big gap between these promises and what actually people experience. He suggests that now people see the flaws in liberalism and they are losing faith in it. Deneen also points out that there is an irony in elite figure flying on the private jets to the conference where they discuss global unity. All right, now this shows how disconnected they are from ordinary people as they talk about the solutions for the world's problems from a position of privilege. They are traveling from private planes. All right, and now they are trying to discuss the question of how we can create a shared future in this fragmented world. This now it is showing how much there is a gap between what we claim and what we want to be, what we actually are, and how much far we are from the solutions, right? Deneen does an impressive job of capturing the current mood of disillusionment, echoing left wing complaints about rampant commercialization, right wing complaints about narcissists and bullying students, and general worries about automation and selfishness. But when he concludes that all this adds up to a failure of liberalism, is his argument convincing? So Deneen effectively he describes today's feeling of disappointment with the liberalism. He includes criticism from both the political left, like there is more focus on profit, there is capitalism, commercialism. He also includes criticism from the right, that is narcissist behavior among the young people, and also all the other general worries that people face. He has included all of that. He has mentioned that people are becoming selfish, they are becoming isolated. Now, the author questions whether Deneen's argument that all these issues prove that liberalism has failed. Is that argument valid? Is that argument persuasive or not? Has he been convincing enough? Now, he argues that the essence of liberalism lies in freeing individuals from constraints. In fact, liberalism contains a wide range of intellectual traditions which provide different answers to the question of how to trade off the relative claims of rights and responsibilities, individual expression, and social ties. Liberals experimented with a range of ideas from devolving power from the center to creating national education system. All right. So Deneen believes the core idea of liberalism is about giving people as much freedom as possible, removing the restrictions on individual choices and actions. All right. However, liberalism isn't a simple idea. It includes many viewpoints on balancing individual rights and social responsibilities, and on how much freedom should people have versus how should be they connected to the communities that they are having. All right. So throughout history, liberals have tried many different approaches, such as shifting power away from central government, creating public education systems to improve society. All of this has been done. All right. Now, Mr. Deneen's fixation on the essence of liberalism leads to second big problem of this book is failure to recognize liberalism's ability to reform itself and address its internal problems. So the author believes that Benin is too focused on the idea of liberalism's core and misses the key point that liberalism has a history of changing and adapting to solve its own issues. He did not recognize the ability of liberalism to solve its own problems. The late 19th century saw America suffering from many of the problems that are reappearing today, including the creation of a business aristocracy, the rise of vast companies, the corruption of politics, and the sense that society was dividing into winners and losers. So in the late 19th century, all these problems that we are facing now, America has already faced. But a wide variety of reformers working within the liberal tradition tackled these problems. People who were liberal, who had liberal thoughts, they tackled these problems very well. Theodore Roosevelt took on the thrust. Progressive cleaned up government corruption. University reformers modernized academic syllabuses and built ladders of opportunity. Rather than dying, liberalism reformed itself. In the past, liberalism reformed itself, and the author or the professor he failed to recognize this. This is another failure of his or the problem of his book. Mr. Dineen is right to point out that the record of liberalism in recent years has been dismissed. It has been very bad. Liberalism has been very bad. That he is right. He's also right to assert that the world has much to learn from the pre-modern notions of liberty as self-mastery and self-denial. The author also wants to say that the author also agrees that ideas about freedom from before liberalism, like the value of self-control or self-restrainment, all of that are still relevant today. The biggest enemy of liberalism is not so much automation, but old-fashioned greed. What is the problem of what is the enemy of liberalism? Old-fashioned greed. As members of the Davos elite pile their plates ever higher with perks and shared options. But he's wrong to argue that the only way for people to liberate themselves from the contradictions of liberalism is liberation from liberalism itself. This is something that he has, gone wrong. The best way to read why liberalism failed is not as a funeral oration, but as a call to action. That is, up your game or else. Okay, so the author suggests that the liberalism biggest problem isn't that people are becoming isolated, but it is the greed of the powerful elites who accumulate the privileges while ignoring others' struggle. Right. So author disagrees with Dineen's view that only solution to all this is to abandon liberalism itself. Right. So instead of seeing Dineen's book as an argument that liberalism is failed, the author sees it as a challenge that we could improvise liberalism, address its weakness before it actually fails. It has not failed yet, but it might. So we need, this is a call to action, a wake up call. All right. Now let's do questions. The author of the passage faults Dineen's conclusion for all of the following reasons, except it's repeated harking back to pre-modern notions of liberty. They are not saying that, Deneen did not conclude then that, the it is repeating all of the pre-modern notions of liberty. No, but still, so we'll hold on to this. Its failure to note historical instances in which the process of declining liberalism has managed to reverse itself. Yes, in the past, it solved its own problems. It's very narrow definitions of liberalism limited to individual freedoms. Yes, that is also true. It's not talking about our society in general. It's talking more of, how self we are isolating ourselves, how self constrained we are, and how, and this also shows how much uh, we are not connected. It's extreme pessimism about the future of liberalism today and predictions of an ultimate decline. It very strongly says it as a failure, and hence one is your answer. It's repeated harking back. It's not repeatedly saying that go to pre-modern notions of liberty. No, it's not saying that there are any pre-modern notions of liberty that you need to go back to. The author of the passage is likely to disagree with all of the following statements, except. So, what is something that he's going to agree with? The essence of liberalism lies in greater individual self expression and freedom. Uh, the author would not really agree with this because it is even about how connected you are, how to liberalism about self freedom, and also how as a society you are connected, right? The author will not agree to this. Right? Liberalism was the dominant ideal in the past century, but it had to reform itself to remain so. Okay, liberalism survived because of the reformations that it had. We'll hold on to this. Claims about liberalism disintegration are exaggerated and misunderstand its core features. It's not saying we are misunderstanding its core features. The distinctions might be exaggerated, but we are not misunderstanding its features. We have just gone wrong. So this is very tricky, but wrong answer. If we accept that liberalism is dying ideal, we must work to find a viable substitute. No, we are not working to find a viable substitute, but to reform liberalism itself. So second is your answer. All of the following statements are evidence of decline of liberalism, except the creation of business, aristocracy, rise of this, true. All the technological advancements are reducing ever more areas to work into meaningless drudgery. Now, all technological are, it is saying that liberalism must make us feel that we are working something meaningful. But now everything has turned into meaningless. We'll hold on to this one. Democracy has degenerated into a theater of absurd. Very true. The gap between liberalism claims about itself and the lived reality of citizenry is now so wide that the lie can no longer be accepted. Again, true. Here, technological advancements are reducing ever more areas of work into meaningless drudgery. Now, लिबरलिज्म का ये है कि टेक्नोलॉजिकल एडवांसमेंट हो रहा है मीनिंगफुल ड्रडजरी होता तो वी वुड हैव वन दिस ऑप्शन राइट एंड हेंस सेकंड इज योर ऑप्शन नाउ the author of the passage refers to the divorce allied to illustrate his views on the way the debate around liberalism has been captured by the rich who have managed to insulate themselves from the economic hardships. He's not talking about the rich who have managed to insulate themselves. Not very specifically. In fact, that the rise in liberalism had led to greater interest in shared futures from unlikely social classes, nowhere mentioned. So it's not talking about that. The unlikelihood of a return of the liberalism of the past, as long as the rich continue to benefit from this. Again, return, unlikelihood of return, nahi jata sahi. The hypocrisy of the liberal rich who profess to subscribe to liberal values while cornering most of the wealth. This is true. You say you are into liberal values, but at the same time you corner most of your wealth. So this is something that he calls Davos elites. That is, he's pointing out the hypocrisy. Now let's do the fifth one. Five jumbled up are given. You need to identify the odd sentence. Self-care particularly links to loneliness, behavioral problems, and negative academic outcomes. So self-care particularly links to loneliness, behavioral problems, and negative academic outcomes. Okay. Latchkey children refers to children who return home from empty homes and take care of themselves from extended periods of time. Latchkey children refers to children who routinely return home from school to empty homes and take care of themselves for extended period of time. Although self-care generally points to negative outcomes, it is important to consider that the bulk of research has yet to track long-term consequences. In research and practice, the phrase children in self care has become to replace latchkey in an effort to more accurately reflect the nature of their circumstances. Although parents might believe that self care would be beneficial for development, recent research has found quite the opposite. All right. So, first, this is introducing your paragraph. And although parents might think that it is beneficial, research has found the opposite, right? Fine. After five, we can say that uh, what is what is it? You can say that after that, self care particularly links to loneliness and negative outcomes can be your next one. Then, in research and practice, the phrase children and self care has come to replace latchkey in an effort to more accurately reflect the nature of their circumstances. So it is talking about children because यहाँ पे parents की बात हो रही है, बच्चों की बात हो रही है. Now again we are going to children and self care, and then second it is explaining the meaning of your latchkey children, that is who return to home, empty homes, and they take care of themselves. Um, Now, third one is talking about its long-term consequences. We are not generally talking about the long-term consequences. We are talking about how parents believe this is beneficial, but it is not for their children. So this is something that long-term consequences is something that we can say is OOC, out of context. Now let's go to the sixth one. The banning of Northern Lights could be considered a precursor to censoring books for moral, worldview, or religious reasons. Attempts to ban books are attempts to silence authors who have summoned immense courage in telling their truth. Okay. Now, the banning and challenging of books in the US has escalated to an unprecedented level. The widely acclaimed fantasy novel Northern Lights was banned in some part of the US and was the second most challenged book in the US. The American Library Association documented an unparalleled number of reported book challenges in 2022, about 2,500 unique titles. All right. See, first one, we can come to know that the the widely acclaimed fantasy of Northern Lights Kaban, 4 and 1, they are showing one picture. Then Then the American Library Association, they have reported so many book challenges in 2022. ये भी उसी की बात कर रहे हैं कि बैन करने के लिए है। एंड हाउ this how मतलब now the banning and challenging of books in US has escalated to an unprecedented level. The library association वाला ये पार्ट है। 3-5 एक पेयर बन रहा है, ठीक है। एंड 4-1 भी एक पेयर बन रहा है। राइट नाउ लेट्स सी टू कहाँ attempts to silence the attempt to silence authors who have courage in telling their stories. It is related to this, but it is not fitting in the paragraph. It's not making a paragraph यहाँ पे. Now, first would be that let me check. First would be 4. The widely acclaimed fantasy novel Northern Lights was banned in some part of the US and was the second most challenged books in the US. It could be considered as a precursor to censoring books for moral, worldly views or religious reasons. Now the attempt, now the banning and challenging has escalated to an unprecedented level. This was the second most challenged book, and now it has become to an unprecedented level that there have been 2,500 unique titles, book challenges have been reported. Uh, so this is just giving the context. It is just laying the first context of your entire thing. It is not revealing anything that it is bad or it is good or what consequences it will have. वो सब नहीं बता रहा है यहाँ पे. So this is your odd one out. So second is your odd one out. Second is your answer. So this is it. The passage was a little bit difficult to comprehend, but it was a very interesting passage. So this was your CAT 2023 slot 2. And let me know if you need any more passages or if you find difficulty with anything, just let us know in the comment box or ping us on Telegram and we'll be happy to help you guys. Thank you so much and please have a great day.